Welcome, everybody. Just thought I'd come on a few minutes early, make sure everything was working. It is beautiful here in Austin as well. At least it was this morning when I walked in here. I have to admit, I don't know what it's like out there right now. It could be 88 degrees for all I know. It probably is. 84. There you go. Thank you, Chris. No sound? Seriously? Let me know if there is... Okay, Steve's got sound. Voice is a little quiet. All right, this is why we start out early. Sound is good. Okay. All right. Keep me posted. From Vermont. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll get started here in just a second. If anybody's got any early questions. Bill, I did see your question in the forum, and I've got some answers for you. So there's really just the fundamental vamp today, and then talking a little bit about how to put it together with the fundamental arrangement. So we have time for questions, and I have a couple questions for all of you as well about the website as I work on getting that cleaned up and clearer. So stick around for that if you like. I had something else to say about drop D tuning today, but I can't remember what it was. All right, well. Oh, Delphine, how you doing? Very often your embellished number 2 are built upon chord substitutions, not this time. Any specific reason? Oh, that's a good question. Let me address that when I get to questions, but that's a good one, and I'll definitely talk about that. All right, well, here is, let me just play through, I'm just going to play through a really simple version of the tune with, I'm just going to do the fundamental vamp. I'm going to do the 5-step, like sort of fundamental arrangement. So I'm going to play the vamp, the fundamental version of the tune, the vamp, the fundamental version, and then the vamp. So this is like sort of the simplest way you can start to put together something that's more than just the 12 bars of the song. But I got to play the vamp right. And come to think of it, I think if I was going to do that, I would actually play the melody twice each time. So I'd do the vamp, I'd play 24 bars, right? Twice through the 12-bar tune, and then the vamp, and then twice through, and then the vamp, which would actually make for a slightly longer arrangement. I think it would sound a little more musical. So maybe I'll do that once we've talked a little bit about the vamp. Ooh, dynamics, also a good question. All right, try to keep all these in my head. All right, well, let's look at the fundamental vamp, and then get into some of these questions. So, is that fitting on the screen? Yeah, it's all there. Can you see all that? Okay, so the fundamental vamp is basically taking this bass line and going down. So from a B to a B flat to an A to a D. So this is, and then on top, got your pinky here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So this is basically a G chord with a B in the bass. This is a G minor chord. We got the B flat, the flat 3rd in the bass. So like going from here, right, B to B flat. So, and here we're basically getting back to a D chord with an A in the bass. And then putting the actual root D in the bass. So that's what's going on in terms of the chord shapes and the harmony, and then the thumb is doing its alternating thing. And so here in this second line, I just isolated the bass, like I just highlighted what the bass is doing. So if you just held your pinky down and got your index finger on this B, then you'd be rocking from the B to the open D, and then B flat to D, and then A to D, and then D to D. So this would be like the first thing to just kind of work out. And then we have these syncopations on top. And I didn't highlight the melody per se, but if you look at this rhythm, it's this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So da, da, da. And over the bass, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Am I doing that right? 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah, so that's a really common kind of syncopation. And then, and of course, I left out a tie. These guys should be held over. This parenthesis in the tab means you don't pick it again. It's held over from here. And I don't know how in the world. The tab is right, but the notation's wrong. But I'm going to guess most of us are looking at the tab, so it's probably cool. But anyway, this note gets held, and then you play this little lick here. So we have... So you could practice just playing these 3 syncopations and then continuing the bass through here, which is really what happens here, right? If you look at bars 3 and 4, there's no lick here. And there's this little pickup lick here on the and of 4 with the open 3rd string. So you could just isolate these 2 bars first, like this. If you had trouble with that pickup note, you could just do the bass with the pickup on the and of 4. So, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And then you could get into the syncopated part. If I slow that down. So look at where the pinches are on 1 and 4. Like that. And so then we just got to work out this little fill here, which starts on beat 2. And we're playing the open B string, so the pinky's got to let go. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So the way that syncopates over the bass, this is being held, of course, though not notated that way. So these first 2 bars we have 1, 2, and 3, and. So these guys are following da 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 da, 2 and 3 and, which is just, it's just even, 8 notes. So you've got basically a pinch on beat 2. So there's a pinch, and then here's the next pinch. So you could just practice 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So those things all put together. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that's the whole thing, basically. And so there's just a little bit of back and forth with what goes where. Because here you have to bring in your middle finger, and here the pinky's got to come in, and then the middle finger's got to come off to play the pickup on the end of 4. So. And then the second time, it's just the bass. 2, 3, 4. If you're going to go around again. If you're not going to go around again, you're just going to land on beat 3 down here, right? So you just go. This is the last line, bars 3 and 4. Right, the melody starts right on the downbeat, so there's no pickup, but you want to leave a little breathing room. So bars 3 and 4 of the last line. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, leave a little space. So up to tempo. So that's the vamp, right? I saw a question about sustain from Steven. You seem to be letting the second string ring in measure 2, but the notes are not written that way. Please comment. Let's see. Here's measure 2. I think it's just like that. I didn't tie this over, like I mentioned. Am I holding this down? Let me see. No, you got to let go of that one to get the B. I'm not palm muting, so I'm letting the bass kind of ring out. The B note on string 2. Let's see. Oh. Well, yeah, it's going to ring out while you go to the A string, and then you're going to pick it again here. There's no real way to show that this is lasting for a quarter note. without making things look incredibly messy. So yeah, it's going to ring out probably, but that's, when you write these things out, it's constantly weighing clarity, versus total accuracy to what's happening on the guitar. It's way easier just to write it out like this than to try to show this ringing out, which makes it look harder to play than it actually is. But yeah, you can let that B string ring out probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna ring out. Okay, let me just look back and see if there's any further questions specifically about fingering or anything like that. I know there are some general questions. The one about dynamics, and then there's questions about the tune as well. So just looking through. Hopefully sound is good for everybody now. Seems like it is. Orange, California. I was just there last weekend with the Dauphin. It was sunny and beautiful. And he loved it, much to my surprise, because he's been talking about wanting to go to the Pacific Northwest for the last couple of years, and suddenly he was like, gee, the weather in LA seems really nice. It's kind of my fault too. I took him to Laguna Beach, so maybe that's why. Will, here's a technique question. Good. Pinky versus ring finger. For the D note of the D chord, you seem to use both. I definitely use the ring finger when I'm playing the melody, but for this one, I don't like this stretch. I think this came up last week too. This feels way easier to me. Like it's just, yeah, there's your whole hand just coming apart like that. This feels way too tight to me. I can't really even do it comfortably. So I'm gonna use the pinky here. And because also I'm playing, a lot of playing blues things involves this kind of power chord sound of just roots and fifths, as opposed to, that's in the melody, but this doesn't involve any third. So you can have the pinky here because you don't really need the third on top. So I'm going to use my pinky for that. This is one of the more confusing things about fingerstyle guitar, is that how to finger chords is kind of fluid. It's not like you just, this is the fingering forever and ever, amen. It's like, this is the fingering sometimes. And then sometimes you need it to be this, or you need this, or you need, like it could be, sometimes you might need this. It just depends. It's very situational when you need what fingering. So it's a combination of what's comfortable for you and what the particular situation is calling for, which I know is kind of an infuriating answer. The old "it depends." Okay. Let's see. What is happening in bar 4? And can you talk about the pickup note or transition from the vamp into the fundamental? Okay, those are both kind of the same question, Craig and Josh, so I will address those. And then I will answer this question from Watson. So what's happening in bar 4 is we're just leaving space. So if we're repeating, we're going to use this version with this pickup note, right? So we're going to get to here, and that's going to lead back in. That's going to wrap around to here, right? This note and that note are the same. Just these are the repeat brackets. So this is what's repeating. This is the pickup the first time. This is the pickup every other time when we want to go around. So we have in bar 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So if we're going to go around, that's what we do. If we're going to go into the melody, we're going to play this version, fundamental vamp into melody. And in bar 4, we're just going to have just 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on beat 1 of the melody, so if I play this, going around, and then the next time I drop out here, it'll sound like this. The vamp again, so I'm going to play the pickup on the and of 4. But now I'm going to leave space when I get to the end of this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm off like that. Hopefully that answers that question. If it doesn't, we'll keep talking about it. Watson, why not use middle finger in the first measure? Seems easier. Middle finger... Yeah, sure. Please do. I mean, I assume you're talking about for this note. Yeah. I don't know why I use my index finger. I mean, let me think about that. I don't know. I just reach for my index for some reason. That feels natural to me. But you could definitely do the middle finger because then you don't have to like move it, right? It's like you're just sort of queued up. Oh, I know why. That's why. I use my index finger because my middle finger's been busy playing this A note. Right? So this guy's tied up, so the instead of lifting it up and jumping over, I'm going to lift it up and put in the index finger. That's why I use my index finger. But you could, you've got time, you've got an 8th note, right? Time to hop over, so you could do that too. Boy, we're getting into some details. This is great. Okay, Ruben, I noticed using my pinky on D on the B string helps grab notes of the second bar of the melody. Yeah, right. When you get into the melody, that is easier. It's just, this is a really not intuitive way. I mean, I can't even pull this finger away, right? This is a really unintuitive way to play a D chord to most people, including myself. But if you are there, if you go like this, right, then you can let this pinky hang out there. So, again, I want to talk about both sides of my mouth at once. On the one hand, definitely feel flexible and find the fingering that works the best for you, whatever's comfortable. Obviously, there are multiple ways to do this. At the same time, try and settle on one eventually, because you can't build muscle memory and you can't get this hand to be reliable until you pick what you're going to do. If you're constantly flipping around and, like haven't really committed to a particular fingering, at a certain point, that will slow you down. So just take those two things into consideration. Argentina, welcome. Nice. Okay, from Mike. If ending the song using the fundamental vamp into melody, I like to end with harmonics on the 7th fret of the 2nd and 3rd string while playing the open D on the 6th string. Oh yeah, I like that too. That's really cool. There is a guitar player here in Austin. I'm blanking on his name. What is his name? Oh, it'll come to me. Anyway, he's this ferocious acoustic guitar player, but like one of those guys who's basically playing electric guitar on an acoustic guitar. Like he's got the sound hole plugged up and like the whole thing. Monty Montgomery. And he does this cool thing when he's playing where he might be playing like a D chord up here, and he'll just reach over and get one of those harmonics while he's playing. It's a really cool thing that he'll do where he's like, he'll just drop those things into the voicings. And then there's John Renborn, who does all that cool melodic stuff with the harmonics when he's in open tunings. Anyway, okay, let me see. Let me know if I got all those fingering questions. Yes, Nancy, that is super strategic. I like it. Going from A minor to regular D. Oh. Where are we going to A minor? Is that happening in the... Did I call something A minor? A sus. Martin, let me know exactly where you're talking about with the A minor. Okay, so we got Watson squared away. Bill and Ruben, you guys are getting things sorted out. Josh and Craig, hopefully I got you guys squared away. And Stephen, I think. So let me get into some of these more general questions. Nancy, I'm glad to hear things are stable. That's crazy. Okay, and Will, we did that question. Okay, so we got Delphine's question about the chord substitutions. We got, forgive me, I can't remember who had the dynamics question. Who was that? I know it's in here. Anyway, there was a question about dynamics, which is an excellent question. I just can't see where it is in the chat. And then we had a question that came in on the forum from Bill about Zuzu Bingo, if we have time to get back to that. So, okay. So let me go back. So Martin's question was about the embellished melody and the A minor. So where does that happen? Let's see. Seeing an A minor. Maybe I read the question wrong. Let me know what measure you're talking about, and I'll try to zero in on that. In the meantime, let me talk a little bit about dynamics. And what was that? Let me see if I can try one more time just to find that original question, just so I can answer it a little more accurately. What was the... Oh, yeah. Oh, from David. Hey. All right, advice on practicing dynamics. Well, this is one of those things. As long as it's occurred to you, I'm going to go full screen here. As long as it's occurred to you that dynamics matter, you're probably on the right track, right? It's when you're not even thinking about dynamics that dynamics are an issue, right? But if you're like, it's like that thing that people tell you to try to reassure you. It's like, well, if you're worried that you're a bad parent, you're probably not a bad parent, because bad parents doesn't occur to them. They might be doing a terrible job. I don't know. People said that to us over and over again. And I was like, oh, this sort of works. Anyway, if you're thinking about dynamics, you're probably not doing a terrible job with dynamics. But there are two things you can do. One is to exaggerate, right? Just like widen your dynamic range. I did a whole YouTube video about this called like play loud or something, why you should practice playing loud. And the idea was, you play, this is going to get loud, so turn your speakers down. I'm going to play, you can play as loudly as possible, right? And the idea is you would never play it like that, right? Because first of all, like when you play that loud, the tone starts to get, it gets really abrasive, right? But that helps you see what the top of your dynamic range is. And playing loudly is a good practice tool because it makes you commit to the notes. playing loudly is mostly for me an exercise in, do you really know what the notes are, right? But then it has this side benefit of helping you find the upper limit of your dynamic range. And then you try playing it as quietly as possible without fluffing any of the notes. You know, and is everything still relatively in the right place? You know, is everything in the right place dynamically relative to the other parts? Like, is there the melody? You know, if you can still get the articulations, you know, if you can do a pull-off quietly, and you can keep the bass steady but quiet without really pounding it. Now you've got this huge range, right? And then you can make decisions about what feels more expressive. What do you want to make pop out or not? And, you know, you could experiment with like trying to play the bass loudly and the melody quietly and vice versa. I've never even tried that, but you could. I mean, it's probably really hard. You could, you know, just go line by line, going quiet, quiet, or loud, quiet, loud. You could go every couple of measures, you know. Reverse it, right? Right? I mean, I don't know. This is just experiments to figure out where the dynamics are, right? Could you do it every measure? I don't know. You know, it's silly, but it's more isolation, right? It's like, can you do it? You know, and then you find out what kind of dynamic control you have. I don't ever really think consciously about dynamics. I don't think. No, I don't think I do. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm aware of the dynamics and the dynamic range. But this is one place where I have to admit that, like, for being such a thinky kind of person, that the dynamics part of it is totally intuitive for me. I don't think about it. But if you were gonna, that's a way, you know, you could at least practice finding your dynamic range, right? And then you could sort of make some choices about it. Okay, here's Martin again. And Josh, I see your question too. I'll get to that. It's measures 3 and 4 and D7, not A minor. It's hard to shift if you don't use your pinky in the D. So let's look at that again. So measure 4, going from D7, measures 3 and 4. Okay, so yeah, okay, yeah, so okay, so I think what I do is I probably just start off with a D chord, right? And then when I go to this fill, I just change, right? So I'm going from here, and I'm not sure which point I bail out, but I am basically going from this shape to this shape. And I'm not sure, I have to look at it and see. That's when I'm doing it. I'm doing it between, like, on the fly. So I'm taking advantage of the open B string. Because when you slow it down, you see, like, if you take your fingers off, let's see. Right, you've got that window. That's when I would switch. Or you can use the pinky, right? So you could do, let's see. So if the pinky's here, but then you got to be here, right? So you still need this here. Yeah, that, right? If you want to keep this down, then you're going to have to get used to playing the D like this, which feels upside down and backwards. But you could do that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Martin, let me know if that squares that away. Will, for the index finger pull off on the C to B note, I find pushing the index finger up rather than pulling off down easier. Let's see, C to B, where is that happening? Oh yeah. If it works, I think you're talking about this moment here on this little triplet here, right? Yeah, so I mean, I prefer pulling just because I'd rather have one motion for every, like one sort of rule of motion for each for this technique. Like, I guess, like pulling off, I tend to think of as pulling, not pushing, right? So this feels like this is the way your hand is gonna go. This is how your hand moves when it's leaving the fingerboard. It's rarely going like this, right? So you have gravity on your side, and you have kind of just the ergonomics of like, you're moving your hand this way anyway. So if you just hold on a little longer and then let go, you kind of get this plucking motion as the finger leaves the string, right? And that, I think, this feels kind of like wasted motion to me. So I'd suggest pulling instead of pushing. There's also a whole video on YouTube on pull-offs where I talk about this. I mean, it's scattered throughout all of these live streams. There's several answers to the pull-off question, but I did make a dedicated video about that, just called, like, I think, Fix Your Pull-Offs or something. Okay. All right, man, we are into the questions. This is great. Okay, I haven't forgotten about Bill and Delphine's questions, but those are slightly off topic, so I'm holding on to them. But we're past the half-hour mark, so I will get to them. A hard question. If I want to create my own vamps, which steps do you think get me there as well as you do them? Is it theory? Great question. I do a lot of the bass snaps seem pre-planned. Is there an embellished vamp? Okay. Slowing down makes it clear. Okay, good. Okay. There's only a fundamental vamp this month. There will be an advanced vamp in the arranging month, of an embellished vamp. Oh, yeah, okay, thank you, David. Yeah, so there's talk about pull-offs in the Jack of Diamonds lessons, which is also in drop D. Yeah, so I did play a different vamp when I posted a version of this to the YouTube channel, and I might have used it the first week when I did the walk-in, when I did the sort of intro music. So I have written that one out, and we will be talking about that in the arranging month. Also, total side note / footnote, I went to see some friends play Tuesday night at, well, for those of you who live in Austin, at Don's Depot. Went to see Danny Britt and Chip Dolan and Marvin Dykehouse and the rest. They made me get up and play. And so I actually did. I was like, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if this Statesboro Blues arrangement would translate. Because they all play electric guitar. And so I did a kind of version of this version of Statesboro Blues with like a band. And except for the fact that it was hard to, great rhythm section on this gig also. And this bass player, I neglected to tell him I'd be playing like a funny version of a G chord. So it took him a couple times around to realize that this was my G and I wasn't playing the root in the bass. So I should have given him more of a heads up. But you could do this as an ensemble version too. It sits nicely with a band. So I don't know why I pointed that out. Just a little local color. Okay, so I'm going to try to answer these questions now from, I'm going to answer Delphine's question about chord substitutions. If I missed anything else, just drop it in again. But why no chord substitutions? It kind of depends on the tune and it kind of depends on the technique. It is a little harder to shoehorn chord substitutions into drop D. And also sometimes I try to do a balance. Like on Trouble in Mind, I did a lot of chord substitutions because Trouble in Mind often gets played by jazz musicians. And so I thought it would sound good and sort of appropriate. It gets played by Western swing music, like the Western swing musicians. There's jazz and Western swing and country versions of that tune. Key to the Highway, on the other hand, is also an E and very similar to Trouble in Mind, but I tried to keep it more in the blues idiom more completely because all the versions that I was using for references were like Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, or Brownie McGee by himself, or Little Walter, or, it was like all like pretty much down the line blues people doing it. So I was like, I love the chord substitution stuff and the jazzier flavors. And I know a lot of people here do too, but not everybody does. And every once in a while, I will hear somebody sort of plaintively ask, like, can we do something bluesier? Can we do something that's more Delta blues? Can we do something that feels like blues? So in that case, I made a conscious decision. Same thing with Statesboro Blues. It's idiomatically like pretty much exclusively played by blues musicians and blues rock musicians. So I didn't want it to start to feel too jazzy, right? I sort of thought about, there's a couple things you could do. Like you could use this, minor 4 chord. You could go 4, minor 4, 1. You could. You could do like. You could do it that way. If you slowed it down and made it like slinkier, it could, I guess, have kind of like a gospel-y sort of feel. Right, with that super like suspended. I mean, you could also. Could really emphasize this. Let's see. Right, you could turn this into a 2/5, right? So A minor to D, right? So, or even, right, like a tritone sub. So. It's really hard to finger with the drop D. Let's see. I would just do that. So. and then you could have this vamp, right? Your vamp could be like... shoot. So A7 sus, right? So D, B minor 7, E7 with B in the bass, A7 sus. Or, I mean, you could, start to get even weirder. Right? B flat 7 to the A sus. That's getting pretty far afield. This is where I get into trouble, Ruben. We sort of had a bit of back and forth, I think, about this in the forum, maybe. What I know about gospel fits into a thimble that's like mostly filled with sand already. I don't really know. I just know kind of on a gut level, I'm like, oh yeah, that has kind of like... just kind of has like what I think of as this sort of gospel sound, but you could probably learn more in 5 minutes going online and looking up gospel piano. Especially like there's this whole like genre of like contemporary gospel piano styles that people teach on YouTube. It's fascinating. I know nothing about it, but it sounds amazing and full of chord substitutions, suspensions, all kinds of cool stuff. I can hear that it's not just 1, 4, and 5, but I haven't studied it to figure out what's going on. So anyway, there's some chord substitution stuff. Here's one. Josh, at your level, my level, do you still do exercises and scales? If so, what do you do? I don't really practice. I don't practice scales. I practice a couple of different things right now, neither of them particularly devotedly. I am doing these exercises right now to learn how to play the changes, to learn. I mean, always sort of like my current hobby is learning to play rhythm changes, B flat rhythm changes. So like I know how to do that, but I mean, learning how to improvise. That kind of stuff. And so I'll do exercises about like landing on the right guide tones. And then trying to embellish those. And that's stuff that I learned in college and didn't really get good at. And so, I was just like bobbing around the internet one day and I found some 20-year-old trumpet player, and that's what he looks like, who had a lesson on, exercises for playing bebop lines. And really, I think it's better to just transcribe solos, which is what I was doing mostly last year. I was, on this mission to like transcribe Dexter Gordon solos, basically. I wanted to learn how Dexter Gordon played double time so that I could do that, mostly on blues, right? Meaning if the time is going by like... that, right? And of course, people do it much faster than that. But so I was transcribing little bits of Dexter Gordon solos and Dexter Gordon licks, and then, started doing a little bit of those exercises and, anything to kind of keep you involved. And I don't do it a lot, it's like I'll literally put on a timer and a metronome and do it for like 10 minutes or something just to kind of, so I do that, and then I'm sort of back to working on the hybrid guitar. And so I've been doing these syncopated exercises in the bass. because I know how to do a steady bass and how to do a shuffle bass, but to do a bass that goes like that. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then can you know what can you do? You know, so it's like, then can you play like, you know, quarter notes on top? Or and then can you play a lick on top? You know, and so just trying to break it down as simply as possible, just, you know, isolating that so that you don't lose track of this. Because if I'm not careful, I'll start doubling up all of it. Which doesn't sound bad, but that's not the point. The point was to start with one particular syncopation. And then to put in a bass fill, like... I screwed it up, right? So you slow it down, you do it with the metronome. So I do things like that to try to increase my capacity as far as like differentiating the bass and the melody, right? And that's just something I'm working on, you know, because it's interesting. Okay, I promised Bill I would talk about Zuzu Bingo, and then Delphine, I could improvise some choruses. I'd be happy to do that. Let me just pull up, Bill's question was about the shout chorus. And so let me get this on screen real quick. The tab for, hang on, I gotta get this on here. Zuzu Bingo, where are you? There we go. All right, I love it when it works out. Okay, so the question, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, the question was, we got the shout chorus for Zuzu Bingo, right? So I think the question was like, can you use these chords? Which I think we went over for St. James, and can you do more with it? Yes, William, you did have a question. This, and then you, and then Delphine. So I was fooling around with this, and I was like, well, you know, you could just take the next set up, right? So we have this one, right? But we could have this one. This is A minor 6, root 5, 6, flat 3. And then there's E7, right? So we could have same rhythm and then open high string and then E7, open high string, and then back up. Something like that, right? Or we could come down. Let me look at the original one. Okay. All right, so. As you could bail out on the same chord. And you could even go up here and go from this A minor 6, which is the third, minor third, 6th, root, and 5th, down to this E7. There's your flat 9. Looks like a diminished chord. So same thing. again using the high string. Right, so I don't remember what I just did. Shoot. Oh, I cheated. That's what I did. So, Bill, let me know if that kind of answers your question. William, yes, let's get back to that. The slide on the low E string. Where is that? William, where are you? Up here. Oh, I find the slide on the low E string from E to F sharp in measure 4 fades, i.e. hard to hear the F sharp. Do slides on the lower strings require a little more pressure? Let's see what we're talking about here. Let me pull that back up. Whew, this is fun. We got so many questions today. I love it. Where is that guy? Hang on. Let's find it. Statesboro. Okay. I hope you're talking about Statesboro because that's what I got up now. So the slide on the low E string from F to F sharp in measure 4. Oh, yeah. So this one. So let's see. So yeah. Okay. Good question. Okay. So the slide, hard to hear the F sharp. Do the slides require more pressure? They just require that you don't leave the wood, right? Like, this is the only way I've kind of come up to describe it, is like just to imagine that your fingers, like, yeah, I guess you could think of it as more pressure. Just as you slide across the fret, sort of visualize that, you know, that you can't let up the pressure. It's not like you need more pressure. You just can't have less pressure, because the minute you relax the minute you let that fret sort of kick you off the string, it's over, right? So you have to kind of imagine that the fret is just this little inconvenience you're going to mow down on your way to the next fret. So it's just going to be, and I'd give it a little extra volume. You know, I find that I kind of roll my hand a little and snap the string a little bit, but I definitely hit the string a little harder, and then I push in. I guess I do push in a little bit. Boy, I'm really not saying anything consistent right now. Yeah, a little more pressure, a little more volume from the thumb. You know, just isolate it and see what it takes. You're not doing anything else at that moment, right? Your hand is free. You can let go of that note and just put all your energy into this guy. You don't have to hold, maybe you're trying to hold this down, I don't know, but you don't have to. You don't want to. The minute you've played this note, you're out of there. That's your whole job right then, is just to play that slide. So hopefully that helps. Okay. Improvise some choruses to decipher before next month. Okay, so here's a couple choruses on Statesboro. Let me go full screen here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, you could you could probably edit together one good solo out of those 4 or 5 choruses. But yeah. So, I mean, I would keep it simple, right? Which I didn't do, but just. So, but it doesn't have to. Better to keep it simple and in the pocket, like I tried to do the second time, than to try to just completely freak out like I did the first time. So it's easy to get carried away. All right. Well, that seems to be our time. So excellent questions. Glad we got to go over all that. I did do, there is, I'll try and get the, if I can, the improv materials posted a little on the early side, so there's time to look at them. I did, model solos and permutations and stuff for next month, and I tried to keep it sane. So there should be some fun stuff to work on. So, quick question before everybody goes. I am looking at how to simplify and improve just the overall functionality of the website. So, things that I have concluded just from what people have said on the forum and stuff is that if things were tagged and searchable, that would be super helpful. I'm not sure how quickly that can be accomplished, but I think it can be done over time. It appears that a lot of people would like to know where to begin when they're new. And the Foundations isn't quite cutting it in that respect. So maybe making it clearer in the Foundations, like how to, what to start with and what to work on. I know a lot of people that have been here for a while just go to the current tune, so that's fine. But if there's other organizational things that would help, mostly in terms of, would you like all the songs to be in one place? Would you like them to be alphabetical, or do you prefer keeping them in chronological order? Would you use more of the non-song stuff like the theory or the core concepts or any of that stuff if it wasn't buried somewhere else on the site? Is anybody really using the weekly planner? Does that help? Is it useless? That kind of thing. And the chronic issue of the forum. If anybody has a forum for something else that they use that they like and wants to send me links or post them in our forum so I can look at them. I'm trying to make the most of what platform everything is already loaded into, but it's not completely out of the question to migrate stuff if it would make it a lot better. Yes, Janice, I thought about that. So one thing I have thought about doing is reorganizing the songs, sort of here's one thing that I wanted to see if people would use if it was there. I always thought that at some point it would get to a point where like there were, don't panic, I'm not going to stop doing new tunes. But in my mind, I thought, well, at a certain point, like there's enough tunes here that it's more important to think about like, what's your repertoire? Like, could you sit down and play a set of songs? So one thing I've thought about doing is taking the existing songs and organizing them into like, levels. So like, okay, beginner level, here's 6 things to work on. Learn these 6 songs first. Advanced beginner, like try these 6 songs. Low intermediate, and then, medium intermediate, here are the hard songs, here are the really hard songs. So you could kind of be thinking in terms of like, do I have these 6 songs together? When I do, great, I've got those, that's my set. Now it's tricky because like within each song, there's all these levels, right? All the way from fundamental up. But I thought maybe just sort of saying like, if you're new, these are the 6 songs you should try first, and so on. So that's a thought. Yeah. Okay. So I wonder, I've been looking at the meetups feature because I didn't even realize it was there. So I wonder if I know that there was some discussion. People are having trouble setting up their own meetups. So I wonder if there's a way we can do it where either I can set up the meetups and leave them there so people can do them at specific times, or if people want to propose a meetup and then I can put it in there. Yeah, Dawn, that's a good idea. I should go back and look at that how to get better in 2025. I mean, I can that's what I'm doing with the orientations. Like I'm having a live stream every month for anybody new to just talk through how the website's organized. But, about 1 in 5 people who's new is just like most people are like, this is great, I'm finding what I'm looking for. But every 5th person or so is just like, what is going on? Like, I can't find anything, like the organization blows, and why can't I search it? And why can't I find all the songs in this key or that key? And I'm totally sympathetic. Like I want it to be easy to find what you're looking for. So I think both, right? I'm going to keep doing the orientations. Yes, the improvs need to go with the songs they came from. I thought the improv stuff, this is one of those things where like, you just can't predict how things are going to evolve. I sort of thought that the improv stuff would, I thought it would be standalone. Like we'd get to a point where there were enough fundamentals of improvisation lessons that you could just go, oh, I want to improvise on a song in E. Let me just go to the one that covered that. But they turned out to be so specific to the songs that they're not really working that way. Like I can't really send people somewhere just for a song, for a different song. Like I can't say, oh, you're working in drop D, go to this fundamentals of improvisation, because every one is so specific to the song. Haven't figured that one out yet. Also haven't figured out like how many people are really using those improvisation lessons. Yeah, Jody, I don't know what that's about. Members could do their own unscheduled meetups, and I guess people were doing that. Oh, Tony, okay, the first songs page was helpful. Yeah, okay. I think mostly there just needs to be a clear, like, this is where you look first kind of section. Okay, Morgana, really like the forum setup in the site. Okay, so my beef with our forum is that you only see the newest stuff. Like it's not, you can't look and see like all the different threads. That kind of makes me crazy. But maybe that's not bugging other people. I don't know. So I'm sort of interested in that. Let's see. Delphine. Oh, I looked into that. I could not migrate what we have. It would have to be archived as like legacy. And so that would be in one place and then you'd have the new one. I'm trying to gauge the level of contentment or discontent with the existing forum because it's one of the hardest things to swap out. But I would do it long term if I felt like people would really benefit. If it's working for people, for the majority of people, I'm not going to it's not as important to me as getting the overall organization improved. Let's see. Abraham, love the improvisation lessons. I usually jump to them as soon as I have the fundamental and the basic. Oh, okay. Interesting. Johnny also. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Helpful. I find it easier to feel like I'm making progress on improvisation variations. Oh, good. This is very helpful. I was starting to get the impression that the improv stuff was just a lot of people were just like, that I'm not ready for that. That's too hard. But that's great to know. Joe, I use the improv lessons as part of the song. Over time, you get more freedom on a key that does beyond the song. Okay, good. Well, I mean, I have no plans to abandon the improvisation stuff. None whatsoever. I just was kind of trying to get a feel for how it's working. Okay. Does it help to have the traditional and the contemporary songs divided like that? Or do they belong sort of all under one roof? Interested in that. Oh yeah, and so Bill, this actually came up recently in the forum. Someone asked, like, where's the performance? And you were like, well, it's usually at the beginning of each live stream. So if that's something you felt like pulling out and posting, I would find a place to put it. Let's see. I find that I'm slowly working into the improv stuff as the songs themselves get easier for me to master. Okay, great. Okay, so some of these things, and another thing that I thought would be useful, and I want to, this is a big project, so before I even go any further with it, I want to know if this would help. I have thought about taking the live streams from each week, like this one, and, sort of marking off, like, someone goes, usually Todd or Ricky, or forgive me if I'm forgetting who else is doing this. Usually someone goes in and puts in marker points, right? Like underneath it in the comments, they put highlights so you can click on, they basically index it with these little like links, which I think I assume is really helpful. I've thought about going a step further and cutting up each video into, anywhere from like 3 to 8 minutes long sections. So you can just go to one section and watch it like a shorter video. So 2 questions about that. Would that be helpful to be able to go back to the page that has the live stream and instead watch it as a series of shorter videos? Would that help? Especially if they were, titled properly and all that and tagged. And would you still want access to the original live stream? Because either A, you just like looking at the live stream all in an hour, or B, because you go back and look at the chat window. Like, does anybody look at the chat window after these happen? I don't know. So I'm curious about that. Definitely keeping the theory lessons. Okay. Also like the separation. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Brian. Oh, been embracing the rhythmic contour concept. Oh, good. Excellent. YouTube has chapters in the scroll bar. Yeah, interesting. We do look at the chat on replay. Okay. Okay, so is the indexing sufficient then? Search to find retarget. Yeah. Okay, I think it sounds like maybe both. Like some people are going to keep using the full live stream with the indexing and the chat, and the smaller videos would be useful as well. Okay, that's good to know. I feel like having shorter, more cut. Like I really love what happened with the 6 steps. Like I feel much better having the 6 steps broken up into like all these short things. Keep the full live stream. Okay, I mean, there's no harm in doing that. Cutting the live streams would be helpful. Yeah, a questionnaire would be good. I have been meaning to do that. I just thought this might be faster. Okay, live streams, indexing the videos, yep. Access to the full live streams, don't care much about the chat after the fact. So I'd like to watch the full live stream too. Okay. Okay, there is a small part of me that wants to get the live streams off of YouTube after the fact, because it's a bit of a leaky part of the membership. I mean, I've had people just flat out tell me like that they've left the membership, but they still have the unlisted links to YouTube and they just go back and watch stuff, which sort of hurts my feelings. But it's sort of like the price of doing business, I guess. But I'm slightly motivated to get everything off of YouTube after it's done and just under the membership. But if people are finding the YouTube access useful, then that's more important to me than a few people that are kind of working around the system. Excellent. Little pedagogical perspective from Janice. Yeah, Bill, yes, shorter, more focused is easier. Jackson's Cadillac. Yeah, that's, I think, before the fundamentals of improvisation stuff got going. So that's interesting. I mean, I was trying to squeeze it all into a month at that point. So that's interesting. I'll go back and look and see what I was doing. So it's been really interesting doing these Redux lessons. I'm working on, I just finished the Crojane material, and I ended up it was like doing a whole new lesson, basically, because the material was so old. So I ended up doing like a whole new like improv and arranging section using like bits of the original lesson, but then kind of remaking it into a new PDF. And we'll go over all that in the live streams. But my initial thought was, this will be great. We'll just go back and do a song and all the material's already there. And then, the PDFs are kind of scattered. So I was like, well, let's put all the music into one PDF. And then once I was doing that, I was like, well, there's no real complete solo. There's just a bunch of exercises. And so one thing led to another. So, I mean, I'm stoked that there's like a much more thorough version of Crojane. But there's a little part of me that's disappointed that I couldn't just go, let's go look at that and pull it up and do it without making a whole bunch of new stuff. But, I learned something, and I think it'll be fun to go over. Let's see. It would be cool to go to a tune to get the feel of the tune, watching a run from you and decide to go with it or not. Oh, I see. Yeah, so having like a complete... Nancy, if I took them off of YouTube, they'd still be archived. It's just that it would be this process of like downloading them from YouTube and then re-uploading them into the membership, so that it was like built into the membership and not linked to YouTube. That's all. So you'd lose the chat, and you might lose the indexing. So on balance, I think it's probably, like I said, it's probably worth it having that, what do they call it in the retail business, shrinkage or something, it's probably worth it. If it's working better for people that are here to leave them on YouTube, then, that's an easy decision. All right. Well, this is immensely helpful. And, so if you have further thoughts about this, let's talk about it on the forum, and maybe I will do some kind of questionnaire. I'm really just trying to figure out, on the front page, right? Just, there's too much stuff. And I would like to, my thought at the moment is to put the current song on the front page, have a song archive, a link to a song archive, a link to the foundations, the forum, and then there's a bunch of other sort of reference stuff. Like there's workshops and special topics and master classes and all that stuff that's kind of confusing, I think. And so that would sort of get its own place. I think 4 or 5 places to go is plenty, especially if when you land, here's the current tune. But you're the ones using it. So that's why I'm asking, Could you do something within YouTube to change the private link after a while? So your choices in YouTube are private, unlisted, and public. And if it's private, then you have to literally get the link from somebody. I don't think there's a way that I can do that smoothly. Right now, it's embedded as an unlisted video. And so when you click through from the membership, you can go see it. But so can anybody who saved the links from when they were a member. But again, it's like, you know, if someone's going to work that hard, it's like someone who might like, you know, join for a month, download all the PDFs and then leave. It's like, you know, if someone's that determined, like more power to them, you know? Okay. Yeah. The schedule, I'm pleased with that. I'm glad that's working, because I think that was getting confusing, and I'm trying to keep that at least 3 months out. So yeah, there's that. Yeah. Okay. Again, if you think of other stuff, I appreciate everybody staying here longer, taking the time. Okay. I think that's it. So, all right. Well, thanks. Oh, I know what I was going to ask everybody. This is the last thing. How many people care about, oh, for crying out loud. How many people care about having YouTube stuff built into the membership? I get this question a lot. Like people sign up and they're like, where's the stuff I saw on YouTube? I'm like, it's back on YouTube. But I could see a way to sort of integrate some of the YouTube stuff into the membership while leaving it on YouTube. Like, I mean, like the weekly lessons that come out like on Fridays and stuff. So I'm just curious about that. So think about that. We can wrap this up. And it's good to have everybody's input. So I appreciate that.